Only a few days ago, doctors were reluctant and grim as they told his family that recovery wasn't certain, leaving fans stunned and riveted to their screens. Lil Scrappy's journey has been a difficult battle, one of uncertainty, anxiety, and moments when optimism seemed like a faraway dream. According to an insider, she had yelled at a doctor, "You don't give up on my son. I don't care what the numbers say. He's a fighter," and she wasn't mistaken. Scrappy was retaliating in ways that had astounded even the most seasoned medical professionals. This was the turning point. Arrived in the wee hours of the morning, Scrappy, who had been unconscious for days, suddenly began to move. It was only a slight twitch of his fingers, but it was enough for the doctors to interpret as evidence that his body was finally responding, and by midday, Scrappy had made even more progress. His eyes for a moment, and even though he was still weak, he was conscious of his surroundings. A nurse who had been keeping a close eye on him explained that at first, he appeared perplexed, as if he was trying to find his location. But then his eyes fell on his mother, and I can assure you that there was recognition in the news. Family members flocked to his bedside like wildfire, their eyes welling with tears. His daughter, who had been too young to comprehend the gravity of the situation, was finally permitted to see him. She grasped his hand and whispered to wake up the doctors who had been preparing the family. As they anxiously awaited news of their beloved rapper's condition, his mother, who was devastated, had been begging for prayers, and close friends were afraid that the worst was coming as social media was flooded with messages of worry, rumors, and even whispers that Scrappy might never be able to live the life he had known again. However, everything has. Doctors have finally given the all-clear in a sudden and unexpected turn of events, and Scrappy's condition is getting better. Against all odds, he's turning out to be stronger than everyone thought. The news has shocked the industry, leaving everyone wondering how this happened. Get ready as we delve into the specifics of Scrappy's amazing comeback, including the emotional responses from his family and fans, as well as the behind-the-scenes drama that nearly ruined everything. What led to this astounding breakthrough? And most importantly, what does this imply for Scrappy's future? The grim updates and his family's heartfelt pleas had caused little Scrappy fans to spend restless nights refreshing their feeds in the hopes of finding good news, but now everything had turned upside down. The rapper who had been hanging on to life had suddenly shown. Significant progress was made. It all began late last night when a close family friend who had visited Scrappy in bed posted a mysterious message online. Miracles happen when you least expect them, so they continued to pray. Within minutes, people started to wonder if Scrappy was waking up and if the doctors had changed their assessment. Although there were no official confirmations yet, the moment of breakthrough occurred early this morning when Scrappy's mother, Mama D, finally posted a video. Her eyes were red and her voice was quivering, but this time it wasn't from. The doctors just informed us that Scrappy's had a genuine chance at recovery, and the internet exploded with messages of relief and astonishment from fans, fellow rappers, and celebrities. My baby is fighting. He's stronger than they thought," she said, barely holding back her tears. Hope had returned, but behind the scenes, things were more complicated than they appeared. Although the doctors were hopeful, they were also cautious because Scrappy wasn't yet well, and his road to full health would not be simple for Scrappy's loved ones. Just 2 nights prior, the family had almost given up because of the intense emotions. His condition had been becoming worse, and some doctors thought his body might not react to therapy. The hospital room had been tense, with hushed conversations, silent prayers, and Bambi, Scrappy's estranged wife, had been having emotional difficulties and had gone through a difficult time prior to his hospitalization. But that didn't matter now because she had been by his side, watching the monitors and whispering encouraging words even when he was unconscious. She reportedly told a friend, "I don't care about anything else. I just want him to be okay." Meanwhile, his mother, Mama D, had been a formidable force, fighting valiantly to secure the best doctors, the best care, and the best prayers. At one point, she even got into a fight with hospital staff. As encouraging as this news was, there was still a significant barrier preventing Scrappy's full recovery. For the worse, they now had a different message. He's still in danger, but there is genuine hope. One of them stated that his vitals are stabilizing, and if this improvement continues, we might be looking at a full recovery. In the hospital room, Scrappy took a deep breath, squirming a little from the pain. His body was weak, but his mind was sharper than ever. "I thought I was done because he admitted that I thought I wouldn't wake up." Don't say that. Anger and resentment vanished, and she realized she still loved him. When Bambi whispered, "You scared me, Scrap. You scared all of us." She tightened her hold on his hand. Scrappy looked at her, his eyes filled with something she couldn't quite read. "I'm not sure what will happen next, but I need to know, are we done?" In the midst of all of this, tensions within his family and inner circle were starting to rise because, although everyone was celebrating Scrappy's progress, not everyone agreed on what should happen next. His body was weak, and his road to recovery would be lengthy and uncertain. His medical team had a strict M, who had always been a significant influence in Scrappy's life, felt that his rehabilitation should be focused on spirituality because it is a miracle and we should treat it as such. She informed the family that she had already gotten in touch with a number of spiritual healers and pastors advised them to participate in the process, but Bambi refused to accept this and insisted on a purely medical approach. She said, "This isn't the time for experiments. He needs science, he needs rehab, he needs professional care." Their argument escalated into a passionate exchange that almost resulted in a full-scale altercation there in the hospital, while Scrappy's close friends were worried about their own. Some of them thought that once he recovered, he intended to cut out people who had only caused him drama and negativity if he survived. One of his longtime friends was heard saying, "He needs a fresh start, no more toxic energy." Then there was the question of Scrappy himself. He was barely conscious at the moment, but as he began to regain his strength, he began to make decisions about his future that would ultimately be his own. Would he listen to his mother? One thing was clear. Even though Scrappy's condition had improved and the doctors were now cautiously optimistic, the battle for control over his recovery was far from over. Would he make amends with Bambi, or would he take a completely different route that no one saw coming? Was intensifying behind the scenes, and as Scrappy gradually regained consciousness, he was going to wake up to a storm of drama that had been building in the early hours of the morning while he was away. His mother, Mama D, his estranged wife, Bambi, and his close friends all had differing opinions about what was best for him. The whole room froze when Scrappy, who had barely been able to keep his eyes open the day before, found his voice. It was weak, barely above a whisper, but when he spoke, the tension in the room skyrocketed. Meanwhile, Mama D, who had been sitting by his side for hours, looked on in shock. Bambi, who had been outside in the hallway, hurried in when she heard his voice. "I'm right here," she said, tears already streaming down her face. She then grabbed his hand and squeezed it tightly. "I'm here, Scrap." "I'm here, Scrappy," she said. At that moment, her eyes fluttered open for the first time. Since his health deteriorated, he appeared to be completely aware of his surroundings, but the moment was brief as everyone left. He muttered, his voice hoarse, but his words were clear. "I need to talk to Bambi alone." A heavy silence descended upon the room, and Malmadi's face darkened. His sighed every single day, fighting for him and not giving up, and now his first desire was to spend time alone with Bambi. "I believe we didn't show him any love," he interrupted, sounding a little stronger this time, and everyone reluctantly left the room. But not before Mama D threw Bambi out. She didn't trust Bambi after everything that had transpired between them, and she wasn't the only one who was worried. Prior to Scrappy's illness, his relationship with Bambi had been strained, with reports circulating that they were having a sour breakup. Concerning disagreements, treachery, and even possible adultery, some sources stated that Scrappy had been spotted with other women, while others said that Bambi had already moved on. However, before everything happened, Bambi had been asking herself the same question for days. She was sure that their marriage was gone, but now that things were different, she said, "I don't know." But before Scrappy could answer, the door exploded. Bambi, who had finally had enough of waiting outside, stepped back into the room and said firmly, "We need to talk." He wasn't just talking about his health anymore. He was also talking about his life, marriage, family, and career, and everything seemed to be hanging by a thread. Mama D, who was pacing the doorway, smirked as if she was ready for a fight by herself. Bambi added, "You want me to go?" Erica looked at Scrappy, who hesitated before giving her a slight nod that said, "Yeah, let me handle this," with a sigh. Bambi ignored it as Erica got up and walked past her, giving her a knowing look. She wasn't going to allow Erica or Mama D to turn this into another power struggle. It was about her and Scrappy. She sat down on the edge of his bed, her expression softening, and then Scrap frowned. "Do you even want me here?" Scrappy exhaled slowly, hating how complicated everything had gotten before his health scare with Bambi had. "What kind of question is that?" "A real one," she asked. Because of the way your mom's been acting and the way Erica just walks in here like she still belongs in your life, I don't know where I fit in anymore." Bambi stood up with fire in her eyes, and Mama D stormed back into the room, refusing to let her take charge of the situation. She said, "Scrappy baby, you need rest, you don't need stress, and you definitely don't need to be dealing with this right now." "Excuse me, I've been here as much as you have." When you were out doing God knows what, Bambi clenched her fists, but before she could retaliate, Scrappy said, "Oh, now you care. Where was all this energy when you two were tearing each other apart before he got sick? Where was all this love?" Mama D laughed coldly. Moaned, "Can't you guys stop this now?" Both women fell silent, but the atmosphere was one of intense animosity. Scrappy might have been getting better, but his family was on the edge of disintegration outside the room, and his close friends were also becoming involved. Some of them were supporting Mama D because they thought Bambi was only present because Scrappy's condition had drawn attention from others who believed Mama D was being overbearing by refusing to acknowledge that her son had a life of his own. And just when things got too chaotic, a surprise visitor arrived, someone no one was expecting to see, just as they. When the tension between Bambi and Mama had reached its highest point, a hospital door opened and a face no one had anticipated, that of Erica Dixon, Scrappy's ex-wife and the mother of his first child, came in. Em practically burst into laughter the moment she saw her, saying, "This is the woman who truly has his back," loud enough for Bambi to hear. Rolled her eyes, but Erica chose to ignore them both and proceeded directly past the drama to Scrappy's room. Scrappy's face flashed with surprise as he asked, "What are you doing here?" Erica folded her arms and said, "I'd heard you were in bad shape, and I wasn't about to let." My daughter's father had been lonely and scrappy for months, but he secretly wasn't shocked when Erica showed up. Despite their tumultuous past, she always managed to show up when it mattered most. "Thank you," he said, and Bambi was yelling outside the room. In contrast to some people, Erica's family has always been family. The war lines were being drawn, and Scrappy was caught in the middle, but at the moment, none of that mattered because his mind was already racing with a new concern. Would he ever be able to perform again? Get back to making music, or was this the start of the end for his career? As Scrappy's strength gradually returned, it became evident that this was only the start of a whole new battle. Scrappy lay in his hospital bed, his mind racing, his body still weak from exhaustion, but the chaos around him. Mama D was virtually celebrating her role as Erica with Scrappy's actual support system, while Bambi was barely controlling her rage. He was stronger than ever, and Erica's surprise entrance had only made things worse by rekindling old wounds and tensions that had never really gone away. In the midst of all of this, Scrappy began to doubt everything. "Scrap, you don't have to worry about this right now," Erica whispered softly. She had pulled up a chair next to him, ignoring the stares from the corridor, and she focused on getting better. Scrappy rubbed his forehead. He confessed, "I don't know what's going to happen with us, but I do know that you being here means something." Bambi had been on the verge of calling it quits, but she was here showing him love when he needed it most. But before Scrappy could respond, the door exploded open once more. This time, it was one of his best friends, Diamond, who was looking frantic at Scrap. She was panting, and something was wrong. Scrappy moaned, and Diamond paused before responding. The label made Scrappy's eyes widen. "They're talking about replacing you, Scrap," she said, "but they're saying they don't. They're already looking for someone else and don't want to take any chances because they don't know if you'll be able to recover." A heavy silence descended on the room as Bambi turned to face Scrappy, panic flashing in her eyes. "They can't do that because you haven't even left the hospital yet. Don't wait, Bambi. Need to know if Scrappy will be able to perform again, and at this point, they're not so sure." Scrappy clenched his jaw, saying, "I need to talk to them." Diamond shook her head, not in agreement. He had worked too hard, fought too long, to let it all slip away now, and his music wasn't just his career. It was his identity. "Your condition, you should prioritize strengthening yourself first," but Scrappy wasn't listening. If the label believed he was finished, he needed to show them wrong by grunting. He began to sit up, squirming from the pain, but Bambi quickly put a hand on his chest to stop him. "Scrap, no, you're not ready. I don't have a..." Mama D, who had been listening in, entered the room with fire in her eyes and said, "If I don't fight for my spot, they'll take it from me. Ain't nobody replacing my son." She said, "I'll call up those fools myself if I have to." Bambi rolled her eyes, saying, "Mama D, this isn't something you can just fix well either." "I don't know what's going to happen with me and Bambi," he said in a strained voice, "but that hasn't stopped you from trying, has it?" Mama D shot back and Scrappy moaned, his head pounding now, and everyone went silent, watching him intently. "I'm not sure if the label will stay with me, but I do know that I haven't done anything yet." Bambi reached for his hand once more, squeezed it, and then fought for it. "Do it the right way, and it will get better." Scrappy first looked at her, then at his mother, and finally at Diamond, where he felt something for the first time in weeks. Didn't feel hopeful in a long time. There were still obstacles to overcome and people watching to see if he could succeed. But one thing